We're going to get started with our regular scheduled meeting of Board of Selectmen for Tuesday, February 14th, starting at 7:01. And our first item of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
All right. Public speak. Kathy and Mike Palazzi. You guys are first on the list.
Good evening. It's Valentine's Day, Jeff, just in case you should have forgotten, could have forgotten. Mike and I think are fine. You okay?
Yeah, we're okay.
No, we're okay. Thank you.
Quick question, Mike. What did you get for Kathy?
Oh, I got her a nice thing of flowers and a nice card.
That is very nice.
For the guy, huh?
Excellent work, Mike.
Good job, Mike.
Diane Grenier.
I'm all set, thank you.
Diane, as I told you when I saw you driving around, I missed your birthday last month. Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
There you go. Cheryl.
It was a big one.
It was a big one? Cheryl's not public speak. Is Cheryl finance?
I'm here.
Okay, Cheryl. We'll let you talk in a second.
That's fine.
Okay. I don't think there's anybody else on. So let's get started. Item 3, additions and deletions to the agenda. Anybody?
Do we want to move 9B to 17? And
9B to 17. Okay, so Adrian's making a motion to move the status of the community center RFP to a number 17. Seconding, I'll second it. All those in favor of that? Aye.
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 5-0. Okay, anything else? Okay. Item 4, treasurer's report. Cheryl.
Yes, hello everyone. Good evening. Happy
Cheryl.
Valentine's Day. So you have in your packet a budget to actual report. Okay, currently it's listed as an interim. Obviously, we're still from July 1st of 2022 till January of 2023. That's the report date currently. The budget amount is what was adopted at your town meeting for the 22-23 year. Expenditures are what I was able to obtain from the admins. The bank accounts for the 22-23 year have not been reconciled yet. We're just finishing up the 21-22. So those I'm hoping to be able to start reconciling bank accounts for 22-23, starting probably by, I would hope, the first full week of March. So I've also marked them as a footnote on the bottom that they are subject to revision, obviously, because they're not reconciled yet. There is no balance sheet currently, but once the reconciling process is done, I will start including a balance sheet on a monthly basis, which will correspond to the budget to actual report that you'll receive for each of your meetings. Does anybody have any current questions on the budget to actual report? I know it looks a little bit different than what you're used to receiving from admins.
Mm-hmm. Does this include anything as far as our ongoing fund balances? Because that's technically not part of our budget per se, but it is something that we spend out of.
It's part of the balance sheet.
Right, the budget, your fund balance is a balance sheet item. It's an equity account. It is not reported on the budget to actual. Once I'm all set and done, then when I start providing the balance sheet to you, the fund balance as audited for 21-22 will appear there.
Okay.
So, Cheryl, question from me is, when are you going to start using the system, the QuickBooks system, to cut checks?
I believe checks have been ordered. When I talked to the temporary bookkeeper that you have, Marina, the previous, I believe she plans on starting to cut checks from QuickBooks this week.
This week.
Yes.
Where do we stand as far as audit?
Can I finish this report first?
Oh, okay. You said current questions, so.
Well, this is 21. This is the 22, 23. Does anybody have any specific questions on this report?
You have the M&T Bank on there, and is there a way that we can at least get, we have all these different checking accounts. Is there a way that we'll get some sort of, sheet to understand which account is which?
I'm glad you're bringing that up. I have to admit that I am against this document being anywhere in any of the official board reports because it lists detailed account information and balances. I feel that potentially is a security issue.
It should never be in this report, ever.
Yeah.
It should not be. Correct.
And
was part of the package you received.
Answer Adrian's question, it will be on the balance sheet if we can ever get the balance sheet.
Not every single one of them, there will not. The only ones that will be on there are your first three, because those are 100% general fund monies. All of the other ones are from your smaller funds, your capital non-reoccurring, you have some non-major special revenue funds, you have some proprietary funds. Those are all separately stated. They are not general fund monies.
So one question. So are you planning on doing separate QuickBooks accounts for each one of those funds?
Yes, so I've already done that. Part of the audit process, each of the separately stated funds, special revenue funds, they have one large QuickBook with all of the particular information for the special revenue funds will be located there. So yes, and then there will be income statements. There also will be balance sheets for each of those specific funds.
Yeah, we won't need those in our monthly packet. What we should get is an Excel spreadsheet that just lists the balance that's in those funds. Because I mean, what do you have? 12 transactions a year out of most of those funds, and all of those are interest deposits.
Yes. So I can, though, if you prefer, I can provide you with a balance sheet on a monthly basis for each of those accounts if you so choose.
No, but Eric, can you make a note, unless someone disagrees, that we have that meeting packet pulled until that's taken out of it?
Okay.
Someone should go get that now.
Okay.
Is that?
I honestly don't know how to do that, so
Paula, you got a shot at it?
we could do it tomorrow.
So, okay. Where is it? And what are we trying to do?
Pull the
Website.
packet off the website.
Pull the packet off the website until this can get fixed. Because it has all the account numbers.
Pull the entire packet off of the website.
Yeah, till we can pull this out of the packet.
I don't have a login still. Eric, can you send me your login?
Maybe.
Text it to her while you're working at it. Cheryl, continue through.
Just say it over Zoom. It'll go well with the account numbers.
So Cheryl, what else do we have? Personally, your report is, the budgetary report is as good, if not better. It's better than what we were getting in the past. I mean, my question is, you're just journal entering all these transactions.
Currently, because you wanted a report, that's currently what I did. That's correct. It is going to be updated, and every transaction from July forward will be entered separately for a reconciliation process. But I wanted to be able to provide you with some type of a document, so I did do a journal entry.
Okay. All right, it looks good. Does anyone have any questions on the interim profit and loss? It's really budget versus actual report.
No, I'm pretty good with it, I think.
Okay, would you like me to go on to the status of the audit?
We'd love that.
Okay, I don't want to I don't want to go out of, well, C is supposed to be town aid roads. And then B is your, the cash report, which you already have, appropriation transfers, over expenditure report, and then the summary of the audit status. So I will go to G if no one else has any objections. I'm going to take that as an okay.
Yeah.
So I currently have July, all the bank statements are ready. Everything has been entered into QuickBooks for the 21-22 year. All of the smaller funds that were set up within QuickBooks have been reconciled through all the bank statements. This week, I will be tying out the general fund due froms to all the separately stated funds because they all have to agree. I will finish up the reconciliation through June of 2022. Then I will start inputting the financial statement documents into the spreadsheet that the auditors request. I will be obtaining depreciation schedules, reviewing them with Eric next week. Those will also go in. I'm going to verify with the school that no adjustments have been made to their books and records for the 21-22 year after the report that I received in December. I know that there was a transition between their previous person and then there was a temporary person and then now they have a new hire. I want to make sure that no additional adjustments need to be made there. We are on target to have everything to the auditors for March. I've spoken with Mike on more than one occasion on our status. And I certainly plan to have the 22-23 year, which is your current budget year, wrapped up, closed into the auditors by the middle of September to the beginning of October for an on-time audit issued by December 31st of 2023. That is, I know it's a aggressive schedule, but certainly as long as I can obtain the information, there's really no reason why it shouldn't be able to transpire.
No, we were having some issues with the state, because we had been being so late. What's our time frame for this one with the auditor?
March. I've spoken with Mike. He's already spoken with OPM, and we are due to start transmitting things probably the first full week of March. Mike is aware of that, and once I have everything up, then he will start to review and obviously start scheduling time for the town hall and the school to begin reviewing the detailed documents.
Okay. So Eric or Cheryl, I'm not sure which I should be addressing this to. What is our status to have someone in there to help pull the documents that Mike's going to need?
Well, I'm not sure. Depending on when the auditors are requesting, I may be able to give some assistance. Okay. I'm not sure if our temporary person that's in there now is available. If normally the auditor is very good about giving the list of documents ahead of time. Okay. So we probably could have, if she's available, Marina, pull those items that are specific to the finance department. Okay. And as I get lists from the school, I believe Mike probably would forward them direct to the superintendent. And when he asks for specific things from the town clerk and the tax collector, we certainly can get that list over to them also to be sure that we can try to pull everything for when the auditors request it.
Okay.
Anyone else have any other questions for me? We're plugging along. Everything's right on target.
Sure, I'll ask one. Cheryl, weren't you supposed to assist us or give us the blueprint for a binder so that we can provide that to the auditor in the future and have our audits be seamless?
Absolutely, that is correct. The book is currently I'm currently working on the book. Once I pass everything off to the auditors, the audit book will be maintained at the town hall. It's not something that I keep at my office. It will be at the town hall, and it will list every item that appears within the balance sheet for the town and all the smaller funds, all the assets, receivables, the budgets, transfers, large asset purchases, anything that has to do with the financials will be in the book.
Okay, so the majority of the information required to complete the audit will be in the book, and then the auditor will give us a list of details for testing purposes on his end.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Adrian, all yours.
So 2 questions. One is the list of required documents pretty much the same every year? So will that go into the audit book as well?
No.
It can. It's not the same. They do it based on whatever their risk factor is.
Okay.
And it changes based on dollar amount. But a list is a list. They're going to look for accounts payable. They're going to track the accounts payable through the check process, making sure that the expenditures were properly authorized. They're going to double check payroll. So the list of items may change, but the process is basically the same.
Okay. And I guess the last question actually is sort of, it's on our agenda a little later under 9A, but we've been, or 9F, we tried to do interviews yesterday. We spent a lot of time there, and unfortunately, we had one person show up out of, I think, 5 that were scheduled. We're still struggling to find someone to fill that position. Any suggestions as to where we should be looking or advertising or what have you that maybe we're not thinking of?
I did speak to Eric on this issue today. I suggested that we put out, contact the local colleges. They have non-traditional students that are there, Quinnebog Valley, Eastern, Yukon, Three Rivers. They all have employment boards. We then could forward our request for resumes, specific criteria. Most of those schools also have QuickBooks classes that have to be met in order to receive an accounting degree. We could certainly go there, see if they have any suggestions. We'd also be able to see what are their grades.
Hey, I just texted it to you. It's E. Anderson, not
Hey,
Sanderson.
Hey, Eric.
What do you think? Thanks for putting that out there. Excellent work.
We could certainly put, see if they can post it and see if we can get any viable candidates from the school structure. Someone who we could at least see what their grades are, what classes they had in accounting, what kind of QuickBooks have they already had.
Right.
Just another avenue for us.
Thank you, Cheryl. That is something that we can sit there and get after the meeting. I think that's really positive information. And I would also like you to discuss with Eric the amount of time that you think that person needs to put into a daily and weekly process. So does anyone else have any other questions for Cheryl? Or Cheryl, do you have to add anything else?
No, just that we're on target and we're heading towards the end stretch for the 21-22
All right.
fiscal year.
As soon as we can start getting checks cut, that will be in our best interest, because then your reconciliation can start.
Yes, it should not, you don't write that many checks.
Nope.
So really the reconciling process of the bank account, once the information is entered in, should not take very long at all.
And one thing that I would request, this is just an operational question. I know there's a tendency to make the payroll a journal entry, make it a check. It'll be easier to see.
I can do that.
All right. Okay. Any other questions for Cheryl? Cheryl, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Have a good evening, everyone. I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me.
All right.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Item 5, boards and commission presentations. Eric, do we have any? No. Okay.
Nope.
Okay, appointments. Item 6, appointment of Wally Barton to the Safety Committee. Somebody want to make a
Correct.
motion? We're going to make a motion for it? We don't need to, or we can.
I will make a motion that we appoint Wally Barton to the Safety Committee.
Seconded.
Second.
Excellent. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we reappoint Eric Anderson to the Eastern Highlands Health District Board of Directors.
I'll second.
Jeff, Paula seconded.
Oh, I'm up. Is it my job? Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you. All 5-0.
I'm sorry, Jeff. I thought you wanted me to
resignations.
move the appointments along.
Yeah, resignations. Kurt Donnelly, Board of Finance. Again, I'd like to express my sympathies to Kurt's family. So
He's definitely going to be missed.
Okay. Item 8, Town Administrator's Report.
Okay. So before I get into my report, do you guys have any questions about anything that was in the report?
No, just get into it. We'll ask as you go.
Okay. So real quick, the grand list has been filed. It was a 2.4% increase overall, which is pretty good. Rearranged our leading spenders a little bit. You know, obviously you talked to Cheryl Miller. I don't need to talk about that. Joe Dillon, the town engineer, and I worked pretty hard to get the grant application for the TRIP grant out, which went out last Friday. So we met the deadline for that. And now we're starting in on prep for the state local bridge program applications. Public Works, as you know, we still have one employee out due to injury, but that's not work related. We are moving along on the Long Hill Road Bridge design. The boring contract has been put out. So the contractor should be in sometime in the month of March to do the initial boring samples to see where bedrock is relative to the bridge. There will be one lane closed while they're working there. It's expected to take 4 to 5 days. You know, or they allot 4 to 5 days, but it should really only take a couple days to do the borings. The survey work should be just about complete. I talked to the guys, the state surveyors that were out there last week, and they said they were on their, you know, final little bit. Then I noticed them out there 3 or 4 more times since then. So their idea of almost complete isn't necessarily what ours are. The big and unfortunate news is that the vehicle we were expecting to get for senior transportation, we're not going to get. Basically, this is the second year in the row. The manufacturer hasn't actually manufactured the chassis, and the coach manufacturer that's supposed to be building the bus has said flat out that they didn't get a single Ford chassis allotted to them this year. So for the second year in a row, they've gotten 0. They got a few GM chassis, but that's not what the state agreed to. So, and they only got apparently 12 out of 100 that they ordered. So I don't know when or if we're going to get that vehicle, even though we were awarded the vehicle and it is supposedly paid for. That doesn't mean, you know, we're going to actually get it. The state has not made any decision about where they're going with that. I don't think they know at this point.
Can I ask a question on that?
Shoot.
Well, you go ahead. That leads to what?
So right now we're stuck with the 2002 large bus. So essentially what we have is we have 2 fairly reliable and 1 less reliable vehicles in the fleet. So I know we're going to talk about it a little bit later, but I think, you know, if we're going to keep, or if we're going to be able to provide a vehicle to the school to meet the needs for their handicapped student, you know, we're going to have to get a little vehicle for senior transportation, because we just don't have the vehicles to really staff what we need to do for senior transportation and for that. I don't think anyway. So I think that should be a discussion later under that agenda item for the board, because we're either going to have to commit to doing it, or we probably ought to tell the elementary school we're not going to be able to support them. And obviously I'm recommending that we get the small vehicle. So the steep grant project on hold at the moment. I just frankly have other things I need to do more to deal with that right now. I will be getting back to that. The other grants, the rec trail grant, or the rec trails grant, is due now. That got pushed back to March 1. So I'm working on that now. That's kind of the next grant up in the hopper. We still have a couple, one town project and one fire department project that needs to go to RFP. Those are for HVAC. And frankly, I just need to fine tune those two and get them out the door. We are meeting on the 16th to review the plan of conservation and development consultants. We got that RFP back about a month ago. We got 2 bids in for the project. And so the commission is going to interview both consultants in a couple of days. So hopefully, you know, in a week or so, they'll have a recommendation to come back to the board on who they think their preferred contractor is for that project. And that's basically all I have. It seems like the majority of my work right now has been either grant related or budget related. So that's it, unless you all have questions for me.
How did the grant application that was due on Thursday go?
I think it went well. You know, that's a weird grant because it's a brand new grant, you know, and nobody really knows. DOT hasn't even decided exactly how they're evaluating or who's going to do the evaluation. So there was a point scale on what points you would get for meeting what categories. So other than the stuff that was specifically related to distressed communities, which were not qualified, I think we satisfied all the objectives that we needed to. So I think it was a reasonably strong grant application, but it's at this point, it's really hard to know, just because it's such a new grant program. You know, it's hard to know exactly what you're shooting, but I'm hoping we get it. Would be nice.
It would be nice. Okay, does anybody else have any questions for Eric?
Eric, so have you figured out how to work in the ARPA money for transportation that you emailed us about to sort of recover from this setback? Or
so we don't have full project details on that. I mean, the only thing we know what the totals are. We don't know when we're likely to get it. I'm just suggesting that that's a reasonable possibility to pay for a portion of the cost of what we're trying to do for the vehicle. Because we can potentially get, you know, $8,000-9,000 from that to offset the cost.
Okay, so we're back. So you're still looking for the alternatives then?
What do you mean looking for the alternatives?
For that vehicle.
What other grant alternatives?
I don't have any other grant alternatives to fund that vehicle.
Okay.
Not that I know of.
Can you do us a favor and in your breakdown, and I know we're going to get to that, but in your breakdown related to that, all of the other communities were looking at some type of grant alternatives. Can you just ask Coventry? They have 2 vehicles. Can we find out if they got a grant and if there's something available that we can apply for? That would be great.
Is it worth looking to see if anybody else is looking to offload a vehicle?
We can.
I know Willimantic built that massive community center and senior center, and I know they've been kind of shuffling everything around. Is, you know, maybe they're looking at, you know, offload something, or even Mansfield, you know. So
Okay, so you want me to look at used cars? Is that what your goal is?
I don't know that it's a goal, but I guess I'm just trying to think that we've got to explore all our options. No, I mean, what do you think? I'm asking you, Eric. I mean, you know, if you think it's not a viable idea, then, you know.
I think generally speaking, used cars have been holding their value well enough that there's not enough savings in going, you know, a recent, you know, a fairly new used vehicle versus a new vehicle.
Okay.
That's my guess.
Okay.
Any other questions for Eric? Okay. Move on to item 9, old business. 9A, the status of the finance official.
So we did attempts to hold interviews. We only had one candidate actually showed up. Not too promising out of the 4 that said they would show up. And that's probably not a candidate that we're wanting to select. Cheryl and I had a long conversation this afternoon about other avenues. And we're going to pursue, you know, going after both the community colleges as well as Eastern, and see if we can find somebody that's essentially just graduating with an accounting degree that has enough knowledge that we would consider hiring.
Well, she also mentioned alternative students, so like an older person that may be going back to school to get a degree for whatever reason. So maybe that's a possibility as well. So they might have some workplace experience and they're just trying to solidify it with a degree.
Yeah.
Did you or Kate get a chance to reach out to the couple people that canceled to see if they were interested in rescheduling, or if this was just not an opportunity they were looking at anymore?
The only one I reached out to was the one that actually called me and left a message saying she wasn't going to show up.
Mm-hmm.
I did not get a hold of her.
Okay.
I did leave her a message and asked her to call me back.
Would anyone else have any objection to, instead of us holding these resumes for a couple of weeks until we get a pile, us trying to pre-screen them immediately to see if we want to, you know, pursue these people? Because I wonder if that maybe is our issue too, that we're waiting till we have a munch and we're too far along in the process. We're losing people.
Call them right away.
Right. Any objection?
I do not have an objection.
Great. So Eric, when we get somebody in, if they look, you know, if the paper looks good, then let's move forward on, you know, maybe whether, you know, you want to reach out, or if you're busy, hand it off to myself or, you know, or someone, and you know, Miss Hebert, and let's do an initial phone call to sort of maybe do a phone interview. And then if we feel that that's a strong candidate, then we ask them to come in immediately for, you know, for something. So.
Yep. I think that's a reasonable approach.
Okay.
I'm all for it.
Any other questions on this topic? Let's move to 9C, Hop River Homes update.
So I did reach out to Maria Tolman. Maria told me that their board had not yet met. I talked to her about 10 days ago. And she said, as soon as their board meets and discusses it, they have the contract we sent them, they will get back to me. So I don't know whether you want to pursue it or try to make them move with a little bit more of a sense of urgency since we're getting close to the spring season, or how you want to approach that.
I will reach out to one of the board members. Okay. 9D, recognizing Andover residents. Paula?
So I was hoping that we can have a final discussion tonight and vote and get this started. The idea came up to maybe use a form on the website for when people want to nominate somebody. And this way we have a paper trail and they can go through and fill in their nomination. And then I think what we need to finalize is how often we're going to talk about this. Are we doing quarterly? So we kind of talked about this a bunch of times, but I'm hoping that we can finalize everything tonight. Is everybody in agreement about the form on the website? And then we can start sharing that information on Facebook. They can click over from there. We can, explain it in the River East. What's everyone's thoughts on this?
Well, for something like that too, I think we can run an announcement that we're seeking, nominations, and they can get the form from the town clerk or from the town website. So if we ran that quarterly, a month ahead of time. Jeff, you're laughing. Do you think we shouldn't do that?
No, I'm laughing. Go ahead. You keep going, Adrian.
If we put that in a tickler to run quarterly, it would just, maybe coincide with us actually doing this. And,
So who's going to, so we'll have printed out forms for people that want to fill it out. Who's going to accept the forms? Should we have them drop them off with Kate or in the clerk's office?
I think a clerk's office is a safer bet. They have better hours. So
okay.
Put it in.
What do you think, Scott?
With that.
Okay. So I can start putting together the form, the printed form, and maybe we can use, I don't know, I have to ask Kate about how the website would work, if it's a Google form that they can click over to, and then we can print that one out and have it
well, they could just prick us. They should be able to just do a submit and have it run to her inbox.
Right. Okay.
Jeff, do you have any other way to improve it?
No, I think those are great ideas. Just do it annually.
You want to do it annually? Okay.
And are we still all in agreement that it's going to be, so the form comes in? I just want to talk this through so we're all on the same page and we all understand. So the form's going to come through, the nominations are going to come in, we're going to talk about it and decide if we accept the nomination, and then the person is obviously has to be a town resident, right? That has done something to improve the community. And then we're putting a brick in once the new community center is built. We're doing a brick walkway. Is that what everyone's in agreement with that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So we talked about quarterly, and then Jeff saying he wants to do it annually.
Well, you can sit there and have a nomination deadline and then a period to evaluate. And if someone meets the qualifications of the group that's selecting it, then you sit there and you have a ceremony to put their brick in the Walk of Fame.
So you want to do the ceremonies annually, or you want to do we had talked about doing it quarterly. So are we changing that methodology?
Well, if you want to do it quarterly, do it quarterly.
Well, we could accept applications annually and then install people quarterly. If we get 4 in, then you do 4, and if not, then we ask the boards or commissions to nominate people from the community. You do it that way.
Or install every 6 months.
Yeah. I think the point is, I think I'd like to do a little more than annually is all. Otherwise it sort of gets lost in the shuffle. People forget that it happens, and
Longer time would be better because it's going to take time to get them all the writing on them, and then set some time up for someone to put them in.
Okay.
So what's the deadline from now until the first? Let's talk about, we have to obviously tell the public that this is happening, right? Get them used to the idea. So when's the first deadline for the application?
So why don't we run the advert, like, we run the advert, like, you know, and that as an announcement, I'll check with Carol, but I think we could probably run it like, you know, every other week for a couple months, and then have the deadline be something like, you know, the end of April.
And when you're saying in the River East, run it every other week?
Yeah, we're allowed to run announcements. So seeking nominations, blah, 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 you know.
Okay, so the end of April is the deadline for applications. And then we can obviously share it on Facebook, and then we'll both, in the meantime, we'll set up the website page.
Right.
So once we get the info in April, when we're going to vote on it, and then what's the first installment? We're right away? Are we gonna well, we have to wait for the walkway to be created, right?
Right.
Right.
I think April's a little too optimistic, to be honest. It only gives us a couple months.
Right.
Well, no, I'm saying if we take nominations through April, and then once we get to the point of the community center first opening, we can do that as part of our first ceremony, you know. And then we do the same thing next year, run them, and then we can make a decision next year how often we want to install.
Leave the application process open permanently, and then sit there and say, here's the deadline for this year's nominees, and you leave it open so people can continuously funnel qualified candidates into the database. And then you can sit there.
You're mesmerized me with your head circle. I'm gonna get hypnotized.
So if we do this online, do we have to, is that person that does the nomination is supposed to leave contact information?
Yeah, you have to have the individual that supports them.
We should have something on the form
because that just keeps it from doing multiple nominations, and
right,
even logging the IP address when they submit the form.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the other thing we should ask for is we want their contact information, so that if they don't fill in why, we need to have a section on the form that says, why are you nominating this person? Give us a summary of why they're deserving, you know. And if we don't get enough information, or we ask for more detail or a way to verify whatever, then we need to be able to contact them to, you know, to do that.
Hey, an Andover resident can't even put an editorial in the River East without leaving their name and their email address.
This is true.
You can only expect so much for someone nominating someone for the Andover Hall of Fame.
No, I'm just checking, to be honest. Just making sure we have it covered.
Let's go.
Okay. All right. So we'll leave it open-ended for nominees, but I think probably once we start breaking ground, and we'll talk about this maybe in the spring or summer about the first set of people we want to vote on. Probably right. The deadline should be for us, but I think Jeff's right where you leave the application process.
Yeah, sure.
Open.
I think you can leave it open, but yeah. But I think as a reminder to the public, you know, we still should run some sort of advert at least once a year for a certain number of weeks.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, we got to get the word out. Okay.
Just a reminder.
All right, I will start working on this. Do we need to vote on this? That we're all in favor of this? Are we good?
No, we're Jeff, what do you think? I don't feel like we need to, but
no, I don't think we need to vote.
Oh, just send it to all of us and let us see it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. 9E, the cool program contract.
Okay, so right now what we have from Cool is the COI, a certificate of insurance for the town, a certificate of insurance for the school, a copy of the full policy of their full insurance policy, and then a copy of the contract with the school. But the school contract basically doesn't really say a lot other than the school is going to allow them to use a couple classrooms for a couple of years. Okay. So the way we left it with the Cool program is they hadn't really accepted any of the versions that the town's attorney drafted for a contact. And so I asked Jess Courier to come back to the town with a contract that the town can review, because I don't think it's really fair for Dennis to be, this would be his probably 5th or 6th draft of a contract to send to them. And they basically not really agreed to any of them. So that's where we are at this point.
Have you sent the insurance information to Kerma?
No, because I think it's premature if we don't even have a contract.
Why? Send it to Kerma and let Kerma tell us what is good or not. I mean, if you sit there and you tell Kerma, we're thinking about allowing this group to use our buildings and our grounds, and we're going to allow them potentially to drive one of our vehicles.
Yeah.
Kerma's going to go and say, "Oh my God, they need to do this, 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 and this." It's not on us.
I think to Eric's point, being able to look at the language of a contract is going to determine whether or not if their policy is written correctly to cover the town, and whether or not our language in that contract,
I understand that, and I agree with that, Adrian. But what's occurring is we just need to sit there and get our insurance company to sit there and say, these are what we're going to require to be able to.
And that can be added to the contract.
And now it's not on us for saying, hey, we want you to do this, 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 and this. It's our insurance company is telling us that we can't do this unless we get this, 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 and this. So either you do this, 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 and this, or we can't do it. It's not that hard.
I'm happy to send it to them and send it to their review. I'm not clear, because without a contract, we don't actually have any relationship but I will send it to them.
And if they tell us that this is what is required, then at least the people from Cool can understand it's not us being arbitrary. It's us having to do this to satisfy our insurance company.
The worst that's going to happen is they're going to come back and say, well, do you have a contract language we can reference?
Exactly. Right. There you go.
Exactly. Then they have to do a new contract with one of Dennis's contracts.
It's not that part of the process.
I will send that to them. Not a problem.
All right. Any other questions on that? All right. 9F, Finance Department employment. I know we reviewed it already. Eric, do you want to go any further?
No, other than it was kind of annoying for everybody to come in on the day off and not have anybody show up to interview. That's a little disappointing.
Okay. 9G, the Andover personnel policy discussion.
So I had sent the Board of Selectmen members last month after the last meeting, after the discussion about what holidays are appropriate, a copy of the revised personnel policy. There wasn't really any incentive for you guys to sign that or agree to that this meeting, because the reality is the first holiday was already passed anyway, so we're not going to make it effective to next year anyway you cut it. So does any members have any suggestions or corrections to the policy that I sent?
I'll have to talk to you after the meeting.
Okay. What I would suggest is that if you can all review it before the next meeting, you can just adopt it at the next meeting, or tell me ahead of time what changes you want in it.
Seems fair.
Uh, 9H, discussion of senior transportation, electric vehicle, and the 15-passenger bus acquisition. So Eric, you've already gone through item 2. So let's go through item 1. Well, you don't even have to. I mean, if we all read that, I mean, the question should we as a board sit there and consider an electric vehicle, as Eric mentioned in his document? And my response to that, and what I wanted to ask you before, is what grants are available? And the answer is yes, we should be going out looking for that, because if we're going to run into these issues with buses, I mean, if we don't assist the school with their needs, then it's going to cost us as a town more money. So we should do whatever we can to assist them in the needs for their bus, because it will save us as a community money.
Yes, I concur.
So to me, if the issue is that you can offset the need of another vehicle with an electric vehicle, if we could find some grant money for that, that would be wonderful. And we would get another vehicle and we could put it on our charging station that's right outside of our building. And I will let you know that I took a picture of a car charging at the charging station outside of the town hall the other day. Quite impressive.
Are we charging for electricity yet?
No, I haven't flipped that on. I've been waiting to see whether anybody actually uses it.
Well,
So far, I've seen actually exactly 2 cars charge on that. You know, so it's not exactly getting a lot of usage.
no.
But if
If you were
have-
waiting to have somebody, we've got 2. So flip the switch. I know I just got my electric bill in. We shouldn't be giving any electricity away for free, given what it's costing. 36 cents a kilowatt in our lovely Connecticut.
But if we had our own vehicle, we would be charging. Okay.
I mean, there are plenty of grants on the charger and infrastructure. I just haven't seen any grants that are going to provide you with the car. At some point this spring, they will open back up the Department of Transportation grant program. And we will probably apply it again, you know, for a, 12 passenger bus. But I don't see, but I mean, given that they can't even supply the ones that were already agreed to, I don't have any hope. And they wouldn't even tell us till next May. And then we would know, at some point the summer after that. So if you want the thing in the next 18 months, you're going to have to agree to buy it or just decide, you're not going to get it.
Okay. So one quick question there. Do we have to reapply for the bus program that we've already approved for because they can't build it?
I don't think anybody knows at this point. So the state hasn't even said we're not getting it this year. But since the manufacturer says we're not getting it this year and the state doesn't have any way to get it, I mean, last year the state didn't tell us until literally the week we were supposed to pick this thing up that we weren't going to get it that year. So that's why I talked to the manufacturer itself, because I didn't want to find, because I don't think the state is telling anybody they're not getting their vehicles yet, but there's no vehicles for them to give. So that's really the issue. So I honestly don't have an answer to that. I think Kathy and I talked about that today. We are going to apply again because there's no reason not to. And if we don't get this vehicle, maybe we'll be prioritized on the list for the next one.
Or maybe you'll get 2.
Or maybe we'll get 2.
But this whole board, nobody wants to get a vehicle in the interim, a cheap vehicle for senior transportation. Nobody's on board with that. We're gonna wait for a grant. Is that what I'm hearing?
No.
Well, I'm on board with it. I mean, I even suggested, we look at used vehicles, but it didn't sound like anybody was interested.
So. Well, that subject needs to be talked about because it's ridiculous to drive those big buses around with one person in them.
Let me ask my next question then, Scott, because I'll go. Eric, the vehicle that you identified as the appropriate electrical vehicle for senior transportation, can you find out what the timing would be if we had purchased one of those? So if we put it into our next budget cycle, how long would it take for us to get that vehicle?
I mean, there aren't a lot of them out there, but if you had cash today, you could get one of those within a
Tomorrow?
dealer within about 50 miles from here.
And what are we looking at to do that?
Between 28 and 31, depending on what it's got on it.
Okay,
We may be able to get it a little cheaper under municipal sales.
so how much did we put towards the state grant for the vehicle that we're not getting?
We put nothing towards it. That was 100% financed grant.
Right.
So the only money we would have currently is possibly the ARPA money for senior stuff, right?
So it does look like we're going to get some funding, somewhere around $9,000 in funding for essentially senior issues or seniors in general.
And is that money available?
I don't know when we're going to get it, but we've been told, we got the information, which I forwarded to all of you, that it looks like we are getting that. I would anticipate that sometime this spring, but when exactly, I don't know.
So I'm guessing from the way you're talking, Scott, that you would support this. So if we get closer
Absolutely, this has been an ongoing problem.
So if we get closer to the end of our budget cycle and we're still in the place we are now where we haven't really touched contingency much, right? Could we take the money from contingency, the ARPA money, and look at one of those vehicles? Would everybody support that?
Right.
Yes.
You've seen my email. You know how I stand on this. I'm not sold on the electric vehicles at this point. I don't think the technology is there. I know Eric's going to disagree, but I think in the future, I think the state's we're going to see more grants for electric vehicles. I still haven't seen in your correspondence where, I know the transportation, we do take people on calls and the drivers do wait in the parking lot. It's very cold or it's hot, and you're using that battery to cool or heat that vehicle while that driver's waiting. And I'm not completely sold that electric vehicle is the way to go right now. I would support a hybrid, but I would not support an electric vehicle at this point.
Understood. And I personally would say if we're going to do it, we get either a gas vehicle. To me, a hybrid's the worst of both worlds. You got all the problems of an electrical vehicle and you still have a gas vehicle there too. So, getting a plug-in hybrid to me does not gain you a whole hell of a lot. I did say there are some options. If you want to explore smaller gas-powered vehicles, you can look at a Ford Escape. That seems to be, I'm pretty sure that's what Columbia's Senior Center has. There are other options if you don't want an electric vehicle.
Okay.
Not that we don't want it. I just don't think, in the next 5 years, I think the technology is going to leapfrog significantly. And I don't want to get stuck with range anxiety with a driver sitting there trying to stay warm in the parking lot. And then, we're only getting 1 or 2 trips out of a vehicle because we're discharging the battery.
I thought Eric's breakdown of the trips and the way the senior drivers go, you were well within your range.
Right.
Yeah, but we're talking that time when they're taking people to medicals and the drivers are sitting waiting for them to come out. It could be a cold day, it could be a hot day, and they're going to run that battery down trying to stay warm or stay cold. And if you're talking 2 calls, you're talking 45 minutes to an hour that they could be waiting. So that to me has not been addressed.
I thought, Eric, in your report, you addressed most of that. The range of that vehicle was 275, and most of your trips were under 100 miles. Much of your daily rotation.
Yeah, Jeff, we're not talking the range. We're talking about a driver dropping somebody off at a medical call and waiting for them to get out.
Kathy, how many times do drivers sit there and run those vehicles?
Every time they take a medical.
So they sit in the parking lot and wait.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're going to have to get heat or they're going to need air conditioning to stay comfortable. And you're going to be using the battery for that.
And Eric's information said the worst case scenario is half of the power in the battery, I think he said.
Yeah, then we're down. And then you got to add in environmental conditions like the winter where you're actually going to be chopping in about 30% of that range.
But
I
no,
mean,
he said the
you're
worst
marginal
that
for
could
two
get-
trips a day. You're marginal for 2 trips a day. If you do the math.
Okay, Eric, then look for vehicle options. Bring us back multiple vehicle options so we can make a decision, because we're gonna have to do something.
So what? You got to give me more guidance than that. What do you want to buy?
A cheap vehicle.
Yeah, a
How
vehicle.
about a cheap gas vehicle? Would everybody?
Hyundai,
be all right
Hyundai
with
Santa
that?
Fe, a Ford Escape, something, medium-sized
Those
SUV.
aren't cheap vehicles.
Well, I
If
want
you
to
What
want
get,
a
about
cheap vehicle, I gave you a cheap vehicle.
Well, what about the Mazda, a Mazda, My wife has a CX-5 or maybe even a CX-7 if we want something a little bigger.
Don't we have to have something that seniors can get in and out of?
Well, that's why I suggested the Mazda. My father-in-law is, 90 now and in a wheelchair. We have to transfer him. And it's actually just about the right height to get in and out of.
yeah, and you can actually put a wheelchair in it.
Yeah, you can.
I mean, if
So-
we're not going to go with that, then, why don't you, you might as well buy a minivan. If you're going to do that, at least then the gas mileage sucks again. All right. So you want gas vehicles? What price range?
Yeah, the other was.
I think 35, under 35,000.
That's what's left in there, Adrian?
Well, if we got the 9 and the we get the 9 from the ARP, and then I think we have all that left in contingency, don't we, Eric?
No.
What do you got left?
Probably 35 at the moment. But you're making a lot of assumptions. Because the one thing that we know is that we're going to be under on revenue this year, because the town clerks collected a lot less money and it slowed down a lot in the building department. So we're definitely going to be somewhat short revenue.
Well, yes and no, because the town clerk, just like last year, that May, June rush for the stickers.
I'm not talking about transfer stickers. I'm accounting for them. I'm just talking about the biggest single thing that we get for funding that comes into the town clerk's office is when real estate is sold. And that's been down considerably this year from last year. So that's the shortfall I'm talking about.
Okay.
But to be perfectly honest, I think we're okay on budget. And I suspect when we get to the end of the year, if you wanted to do that, you probably could, instead of budgeting it for next year, hopefully transfer some money into somewhere for the vehicle. If that's
Well, that gets us one vehicle sooner, and then we can try to reapply.
They make a lot of smaller SUVs now.
Yeah.
Chevy makes one, Buick makes one.
Yeah.
There's a lot of smaller SUVs around.
Is there any, and I guess maybe we can look at some of the set programs that are out there, for municipal.
I'm not sure what you mean. What's your question?
Municipal programs.
Wasn't there a couple of programs that we could buy through in the past?
Yeah, once you know what vehicle you want, we'll use Sourcewell, or something like that to acquire the vehicle. Yeah,
I'll let you buy one through Costco on my card as long as I get the points. They have a pretty good deals.
Oh, is everybody in agreement that we're going to be looking at a smaller SUV type vehicle?
SUV or minivan, as long as the minivan gets decent mileage. I don't disagree with Eric. I think a minivan's not a bad idea.
None of them. Yeah, it's a good idea, but none of them get any good gas mileage.
I haven't looked for minivan in ages, so I have no idea. But Kathy's laughing. She doesn't want to drive a minivan. You're muted, Kathy.
Well, I didn't want you to know I was laughing. No, I think if you're not going to go with the, I think we should try to get a small minivan or suitable car And I like what Eric said. I agree with him completely. He and I have been discussing this for a long time. And the reason truly that I want to see an electric vehicle, I agree with what Jeff is saying, by the way, Jeff Murray, that it's in the beginning stages. But I also did include on that report what they're doing in Europe regarding the batteries, and those batteries are going in the cars that they're making here in the States or putting together in the States. So I don't know. But anyway, yeah, let's just get the car, please. We need a car.
All right. Got to move on this.
Okay, so
I mean, I was just browsing. I mean, there's a Kia Sportage. It's 100,000 mile warranty. All-wheel drive starts at 28,000.
Yeah, there you go.
26,000. I'm sorry.
yeah,
There you go.
the Escape starts at 27. The Mazda starts at 25. So
Do
Yep.
they have heat?
They have what?
Full
It's
heat?
got an engine. It's got heat.
Heat. Yeah, they got heat and air.
All right, Eric, so
we
let's.
are a
let's look at
nitpicky
that.
group, though, aren't we?
And so by the end
My
of,
lord.
this fiscal year, we will either
I
try
think-
to acquire a vehicle, or we will sit there and put it into next year's budget.
Yeah, and I think we should still apply for another vehicle, you know, if we can take a shot at that too. So
Oh, we will do that. I mean, that's a given. It's just a question of whether, but we're not gonna have that anytime soon.
right, okay, so we're on agreement.
Just for the sake of argument, what's the average mileage you put on the minivan a year?
That's a Kathy question, not an
Kathy,
Eric.
It is a question for me, and I don't have the book in front of me. I'm sorry.
Okay.
about Kathy, about
I
how
can
many?
text it.
About how many?
I can't say it because I might be wrong and I might be underestimating. That's not fair. I
Yeah, I'm
gotta,
just looking
20,000?
the reason I'm asking is I'm looking at some vehicles and they have a 10-year, 100,000 mile warranty. So if we're putting, 10,000 miles on a year, we're going to get 10 years of warranty out of that vehicle. So I mean, it's just, that's just something to look at as well.
right now, we've been putting enormous amount on it because we're really hurting, trying to get our seniors. And we've been using the van daily, like 4 or 5 times it goes out a day. So right now we are using a lot. Maybe if you get another car, we won't have to worry about that quite as much. But at least I'll have 2 suitable vehicles and I won't have to take the buses out because that's a crime.
Right.
Understood.
And I'll get that information to you, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm just curious what we're putting out for mileage.
I mean, so. So you want either a minivan or an SUV or a
Small.
small SUV
Yeah.
of some price under $35,000. What is the criteria for purchasing this? What is it that you're looking for in the vehicle?
Well, we definitely need to make sure we can put a wheelchair in the back.
No, we already have 3 wheelchair accessible vehicles. If somebody's in a wheelchair, we're not taking them in this thing anyway.
Well, a wheelchair, a walker, that type of. I mean, they're gonna use it with
Hatchback,
a
you're
walker.
saying? You want a hatchback?
Yeah, we need something with some, with a hatch in the back.
Yeah, I think a hatchback versus a trunk is,
Yeah, like a small SUV, like a CX-5 or a Escape or.
Right. And what miles per gallon are we looking for here?
27.
25 plus?
Yeah, 25 plus. I mean,
Yeah, most of the ones I'm looking at are right around 28 to 30.
Yeah.
you know,
So
my wife
25
gets
plus.
20 my wife gets 27 in her 5. So
Yep.
Okay, so Eric, if you can look into it, you have a lot of shoppers willing to participate in that program here. So,
I mean, okay.
I mean, we're not buying for resale, we're buying for use. So we're going to use it, we're going to run the wheels off it, and we're probably going to sell it or get rid of it.
I mean, Kathy, can I ask you a question, or Eric, whoever? We have vehicles under this trip this 1 week in January. Actually, it's longer than a week. It's 9 days. You have listed a van and a bus. Are those just 2 separate vehicles or one? No, well, not. I mean, is the van 2 separate vans or just one van?
No, so we have 1 van, we have 1 small bus,
Yeah.
And we have one old larger bus current.
Okay. So you ran about 500 miles on the van between January 3rd and January 9th.
Yeah, but I didn't finish
Correct.
anything and I'm already up to 503 miles. And I still
just-
have three
I
more
just
times
missed
to
one.
add.
So I missed 3 miles. So we got 500 miles a week. And then, you know,
That
let's
we-
sit there and say you got 25,000 miles on that vehicle a year. Okay. So find something economical, good gas mileage that can, a resident can get in and out of easily, and that we can at least put a walker in the back.
Do we
Yeah.
want like all-wheel drive or anything like that, everyone?
Everybody, I mean, doesn't everybody have that now?
I think it's all-wheel drive now, right?
We're not going out and getting a Corvette that Mike would drive and do some peel outs. And,
Yeah, I think everything sold in the Northeast is all-wheel drive anyway.
okay. All right, so we're all in agreement that we want to do that.
So we
for the
typically
benefit-
don't run senior transportation in the snow anyway. So having an all-wheel drive vehicle is a waste.
Well, not necessarily, because we may have a driveway or something that they may need to get up.
Yeah.
So it's not completely a waste.
To
True,
buy,
Jeff.
to buy at that level, you're going to get what you get. So if you're going to buy
Right.
between 25 and 30,000 or 30,000, 35,000, you're just trying to find the right vehicle at the right size that works. So let's take a look at them and know that we're all in agreement that we want to do something. So, all right,
Good.
let's move on to item 10, new business, budget meeting minutes. Do you have a schedule, Eric, that you want to follow?
I don't. The question is, what schedule do you all want to follow? When do you want your budget meetings?
What day works for everybody? I would personally like to keep them all on Mondays if possible.
I would second that. Mondays work best for me.
Ditto.
Ditto.
Okay.
Paula?
Mondays are terrible, but I'll go along with it because I like you all.
Paula, thank you.
That's my Valentine's Day gift to you all.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so when do we want to get started?
I'm gonna send Marcus flowers.
Eric, when do you need us to get started?
Well, you can't do next Monday because that's a holiday.
Excellent.
I guess it depends on how many budget meetings you want to have, because you really ought to be turning a budget over to the Board of Finance somewhere around the middle of March. So you got about a month, something like that.
All right, so the 27th, the 6th, the 13th, and the 20th, and the 27th. Just put them all in March.
Okay.
Actually, we have a meeting on one of those days, don't we?
Yep. You would.
Okay, so put all the other Mondays, and then if we get to our first meeting, we need to schedule additional meetings, we will.
So
Anybody
you don't
have-
want the first meeting till the 27th?
Well, you told me I couldn't schedule the 20th, or we would have, because it's a public holiday.
Correct. I did tell you that.
You did. I
And
would have
only
said
because
that.
Dennis yelled at me for scheduling a meeting on a
What-
public holiday and told me I was violating FOI rules and I didn't need to make a change.
And what holiday is it? March 20th?
I don't know. It's somebody's dead.
President. President or-
Washington.
Yeah.
No,
one of-
Lincoln is this month.
So does it matter? Do you want to do the 21st?
That's fine with me.
Actually, I may not be making that.
21st is Tuesday.
Do the 22nd.
So you want to schedule 22nd, the 27th. Just bringing up my calendar.
The
The
3rd.
6th.
22nd Board of Finance, but. So Eric, you're gonna have to choose one or the other, I guess.
Yeah, that's probably not a great idea. How about the 23rd?
Yeah, I don't see anything really except for Sustainable Connecticut. anybody's involved with that.
Well, here's the question. I mean, how many meetings do we need?
Well, it's always better to have more, and we can say we don't need them.
They're gonna do it
I
on.
don't understand why they did this.
We were trying to only do 4, so Eric was
So
telling
what,
us
20, so you're talking 23rd, 27th, and 13th?
6th is not our meeting. The 13th is our meeting, so we got to do the
I'm
6th.
sorry, 6th.
And then the 20th, and then the 27th. So just schedule through the end of March, and if we don't have to have them, we don't have them.
I can't make the 20th, I can tell you that.
Okay?
You mean March 20th?
Yes.
I cannot.
I think if we get the budget from you, Eric, and we can go through it, we can have all our questions in a row. I don't anticipate it being too involved. I think if we can do it, we can expedite it a little bit by going through it. And
Sure. Well, you should all have the budget.
yep, I just didn't know if there was going to be any revisions to that up to our first meeting.
Yeah, I mean, there'll definitely be revisions between now and then. We should have the AHM budget finalized. We should have, I mean, the stuff trickles in over the next couple months as various different vendors of ours finalize their budgets. So, really over the next couple months, some things get dialed in, but you've got basically a big picture budget. And the other thing I don't know is I'm not going to know because it's a biennial budget. So we're not going to know what's coming out of the state legislature until May, maybe June. So we're not, on the spending side, if you look at the governor's proposed budget, we lose somewhere around 80 or 90,000 in state aid, mostly in, what do you call it? In the education funding.
ECS.
We lose like 60,000 in ECS. We lose about 20,000 in other little things. And then last year we got a big shot in the arm because of the change to the cap on the real estate or the motor vehicle tax. But because last year our budget was under the cap, we're not getting anything back from that. So we lose about 115K with that. So we're definitely looking at less revenues, but we're not going to have specifics until they actually pass a budget. I can give you spending numbers, but I can't give you what our revenues are going to be.
I think if we got projections, it'll probably be fine. And we can just, if we can get probably a final before the 21st, just someone give us a couple of days to chew on it if we're going to do the 23rd.
So by the February 21st, you want the budget in as much detail as I've got it.
Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
2 days enough to go through it?
Yes.
So we're doing the 21st,
23rd,
23rd.
the Thursday.
Okay. So 23rd, 27th, 6th.
What was the 6th? March?
Monday, yep.
And
And then why don't we formally push it over on the 13th at our regular meeting? That'll give us another week for adjustments if something comes in.
Do we have a special meeting scheduled on March 13th?
No, I've got one this Friday, don't we?
Yeah, there's one scheduled for March 13th as well. It says Board of Selectmen special meeting 7 to 8.
I have no idea.
That might be
Not that I know.
a.
I'm not sure why that's on there.
It says special meeting and it says regular meeting. It looks like our meeting's on there twice.
Oh, is that because we were going to do the pre-meeting? Maybe she put it on the wrong day.
Possible. I'll review that.
That's what it looks like.
Now, for the first budget meeting, what do you want from me other than the revised document? Is there anything specific you're focusing on that you want to make it a focus of the first meeting?
I mean, I personally would like to see you go through and give us all the highlights. You know, the bigger numbers that were changed, you know, the biggest impacts on the budget, you know.
Okay.
And I think also at the end of that meeting or through that meeting, we probably should also look at dialing in what we're doing for employee pay and any other adjustments in that area as far as hours in different departments and stuff.
Okay, yeah, and obviously one of the first things you need to do, because that impacts on the budget, is determine what the, you know, what you're pushing for a pay, you know,
Right.
Pay scale for employees.
And that way we've got that factored in, that's done. Any other improvements, you know, as far as hours of service or what we're going to provide, if we're talking town planner, those types of things, I think those are our big factors.
Okay.
I know this is a big ask, but I'm just wondering, is there any way we could try to get some comp numbers for our positions? Because I know in the past we've just done blanket increases, and there may be some positions that we're severely underpaying employees in, and there may be some we are at or near what other towns are paying. So I would almost like to review it and do adjustments on a position by position basis. I mean, that's my recommendation. Maybe we do that. I don't know how we would do that, but if we just keep doing blanket increases every year, there may be some positions that are severely underpaid and other towns are paying much more, and we need to stay competitive.
I think as a whole, Jeff, we tried to make those adjustments as we've moved new people into positions.
Yeah, but you know, my correspondence recently, I want to try to retain the talent that we do have. So if there's somebody that, you know, Hebron's paying X amount of dollars, you know, do we want to try to keep that employee for, you know, the term of their employment, or do we want to lose them to a neighboring town?
Is there a position specifically we should be looking at?
No, I'm just putting it out there just for discussion, because I know we've just done blanket 3-4%, you know, whatever, but there may be some that need a bigger boost than others.
Well, I mean, most of our positions right now are in unions, so.
Yeah, but not all of them. So, I mean, we can't control the union ones. I mean.
I know, but so, you know, the town clerk's assistant is in a union. The finance position is in a union. We did the memorandum of understanding for that one. The building department is in a union. The assistant assessor is in a union. And we have a memorandum.
I'm talking about non-union positions.
We only have one.
I thought we had a couple.
We have one in an elected official. That's it.
So if you want, I mean, and the only reason I'm hesitating is because I've done this before and it chews up a fair bit of time to do it. But
that's why I hate to ask, but
that data is available to us. If you tell me what cohort of towns you want to use to compare us to, if you give me
I don't understand. We're talking about, we have one non-union position and one elected official.
Correct. I'm not trying to, Adrian, I'm not trying to be specific. I'm trying to be general. And we're going to have to discuss those two positions.
Maybe in executive session, Jeff.
I mean, honestly, a lot of our problems have been in union positions. And the reality is, if you choose to increase the salary of a union position, the union is never going to fight you. you know, in some of the places we've had really excessive attrition have been union positions. So if you're going to look at it, you could look at it, you know, overall, you know, if that's what you want to do. What I'm saying is I can get you the information because it is available to us, or it's available to me as a town manager. You just have to tell me who you want to compare us to, and I'll give you all the salary comps for the positions that I can get information on. But
why don't you focus on the two that are non-union?
Which two positions are you talking about? Jay, Tuttle, and who else?
No, Jay's not on a contract. We actually have to look at his contract, but that's a different conversation. I think, you know, Jeff, the only two that are in the town hall or that I know of are what, Kate, your assistant, and the town clerk. Everybody else is union.
I would also, we're gonna get into all these issues. I would also like to do these meetings in person. Anybody have a problem with that?
Do what meetings in person?
Our budget meetings.
So I'm fine. I do them in my office. So whether I do them in my office or the down the hall makes no difference to me. I would have to see what days we have available. Because
I personally don't want to do them in person. It's hard. I mean, I'm usually trying to run home to try to make these in the first place. So, you know.
Can I make a suggestion that we set them up as hybrid meetings? Because we have that capability now. I worked it out with our IT guy, and we can set that meeting up so we can do good quality hybrid meetings. So if most of you want to be there and a couple people can't, that's fine. It'll work out just fine. We do that for a lot of the meetings at CROG and a lot of the meetings with, you know, Eastern Highlands Health District. So that technology's worked out if you want to utilize it.
It's either we're all in or we're all Zoom. So if Adrian doesn't want to be in, I get it.
I do not, only because I, you know, like tonight, I didn't get a shower in yet. I am absolutely covered in crap. So,
well,
yeah.
I mean, Jeff, to be perfectly honest, I do hybrid meetings all the time and they work fine. So if that's the way you want to go, we can support you at the town level and make that happen.
It's okay. I can do this.
Okay.
And can I make a suggestion? I'm fine with hybrid meetings, but we'll have to try it and see if a board member's not there in person. That room, the acoustics are terrible. So I just want to make sure that we try it. And if we have to adjust, we have to all agree to adjust. So I like the idea of hybrid. If people don't like Zoom, they can come down and listen, but there's meetings that I listen to that are hybrid sometimes. And if I'm on Zoom, it's hard to hear the people in the room and vice versa. So I just want to make sure that it's going to work out.
Yeah, I mean, I think as long as the meeting is kept, as long as you don't have more than say 10 people in the meeting room, and you don't have a giant circle so people are way away from the camera and mic setup, you're okay. But you're right, the acoustics in that room are tough.
Okay, so we have the schedule and we're all good with the schedule as it's currently laid out. So Eric, can you read it to us?
So the schedule at this point is February 23rd, February 27th, March 6th, March 13th, with March 20th as a reserve date. March 13th being your regularly scheduled meeting.
Okay. I have no problem with that schedule right now.
And we're going to do it strictly Zoom then.
We're not doing hybrid. I thought we'd try the hybrid.
If we're not all going in, I'm doing Zoom.
Okay.
Okay, Zoom it is.
Jeff, would you be okay with if all the board members are on Zoom and then Eric invites anybody from the public that wants to come down and do it hybrid that way to listen? No, we don't like that idea.
I have no desire to do that. I mean, if you're not all going to be in the room, it doesn't make sense. You know,
Either
why?
we're all in or we're not. So we're either all in and we do it, or we're on Zoom, which I'm fine with.
Okay. Just trying to think of the people that don't like Zoom.
I got it. Okay. So we had our budget discussion, roadwork planning, Eric.
So we're going to have to put that off because Jay is dealing with the family. That was going to be his discussion point. So that will be one of the discussions at the first budget meeting.
Okay, 10D, the grant for the community garden. So there was a letter in our package.
Yep. So the community garden would like to apply for another grant to continue to do work on their shed. But if the town has to be the fiduciary and the grant administrator, that's not a me decision. That's a Board of Selectmen decision, whether you want to do that or not.
So they're just asking us to facilitate their grant.
Yep, they're just asking us to be the fiduciary on the grant, but it just means we have to account for it at the end of the year.
Sounds good to me.
We decided to do it.
Any problems with that? Anybody?
No.
No.
Okay.
Someone make a motion to be the fiduciary for their grant.
I make a motion to be the fiduciary for the grant application for the community garden.
I'll second that.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Item 11, approval of meeting minutes for Monday, January 9th, 2023.
I make a motion to accept the meeting minutes for Monday, January 9th, 2023.
Scott said he seconded it. He quietly did it. I saw his mouth move. All right. All those in favor? Aye.
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 12, budget appropriation transfers or over expenditure requests. Do we have any, Eric?
There are none at this time.
Okay. Tax collectors report, item 13.
Yeah, so there are 2 refund requests. One for Vault Trust for $715.68 and one for $20.24 for a total of $735.92.
All right. Somebody want to make a motion to approve those?
Motion to approve.
Okay.
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye.
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 The department reports were included in our package. Anybody have any questions on any of them? I have one. Eric, on the building department.
What is the question?
Page 65. There were 21 building permits issued in the month of January with an estimated cost of $249,000.
Yes,
Any of
not
those
permit costs.
Any of those whole house applications?
Say that again?
Any of those new house applications?
I don't think so, but I don't know for sure. Seems pretty unlikely if the grand total is 249.
249.
That's my concern. So can you check that out? Just make sure, like what type of applications, like what are the estimated costs? I mean, we had talked multiple times about how to sit there and try to do some basic check and do some basic math, whether it was square footage or anything else. I just look at that number and it's kind of low. So That's all I was looking at. So the estimated costs that the individuals who are applying for those permits are putting on their application was $250,000 for 21 applications. So if you can just look at it and just report back to us next month, that would be great.
Sure. So you want details about the month of January?
No, I just want you to come back and report to us and say, you know, this month's numbers were 275 and they appear reasonable. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions on any of the other reports?
I do not.
Okay. So let's move on to item 15, correspondence. I'm assuming there's none.
Nope.
Item 16, public speak. So left on our call, we have Mike and Kathy Pelosi. That's it. Everybody else left us.
Thank you very much for considering on the car. Appreciate it. Thank you. That's it.
Mike, you got nothing? No. Okay, he's good.
He has
All
nothing.
right. All right. Okay. So we are now done with public speak. We're going to move on to item 17A, which is the status of the community center RFP.
So I'd like to move that we go into executive session to discuss this. Pursuant to General Statute Section 1-6B and 1-9C to discuss the with the town administrator and the town attorney to discuss strategy and negotiations regarding the progress of the completion of the community center project with regards to any pending action.
Is someone going to second that?
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Mike and Kathy, thank you for joining us. Eric, if you could stop the recording.
Yep.